book that we're going to talk about today. This one is on the sensitive side, and it's about how molestation can affect your life and how to combat the negative effects that it would have on you. Many times we don't hear about the molestations that occur on young boys. We only pretty much hear about them on the younger girls and, teenage girls and that sort of thing. Whether it be a boy or a girl, the effects of that action can be very detrimental to a person's personality, their relationships with others, intimate relationships. All of these things are hindered by this. Not many of you know, or actually none of you guys know, that I too experienced molestation when I was young. I was age 12. And I actually didn't realize the effect that it had on me until I became older. Like I'll say maybe in my early 20s or so. And I'm actually starting to kind of have some effects coming back from that. Sometimes we think that we suppress things and that, we done with them because we don't think about it anymore. But every now and again throughout the years, that act will come back to you. Depending on how you handle this is going to depend on you. You first got to understand that this was not your fault. This was an act that was done by a person that was either mentally unstable, just a monstrous person. And you have to understand that you did nothing to deserve this. Okay? There is counseling available. Many times we don't even want to speak about it. We don't tell as often as we should. And myself being one of them, I didn't tell anybody until many, many years later. From age 12 to age 19, I was molested. So it affected my intimacy level. It affected my being with and interacting with other people, like my peers and that sort of thing. I pretty much was withdrawn from people. I would only let them get so close to me, and then I would, of course, push them away or whatever. And I have to admit, I was molested by more than one person. Babysitter, so it just seems as though everybody that was supposed to protect me were the ones that were molesting me and taking advantage of me. Surprisingly, I didn't become promiscuous with that for some reason. I can only say that it was God that kept me from doing that. My self-esteem was low. I will admit that. I went through a thing where I felt that only people like me was because of my body, or what have you. So I was not able to feel what real love was. I was seeking it, and I was seeking it from anybody that would give it to me. Many people do that. Many people will become very sexually risque. You could turn to drugs. You could turn to an anger management problem. It could even show itself in your grades at school, behavior at home, things like that. So parents really need to be able to pick up on the subtle signs that maybe this has occurred. Don't be afraid to talk to your kids about it. You know, make sure that they're aware that within you is a safe place for them to be able to come to and talk about something like this. So how do you overcome something like this? How do you not let it affect you where it's just to the point you are just doing everything under the sun that you should not be doing? The only thing I could tell you is I did a lot of praying. As I got older, I prayed more. I was able to come out of my shell that I was in. Every now and again, I would revert back into my shell. I become more withdrawn, even with family. You know, I've always been a person that's been to myself, and I don't really like that, because I like surrounding myself with people. That gives me a lot of joy, and at the same time, it scares me, if that makes any sense. But you have to seek counseling if you need it. It is there to help you through things such as this. Write it down. Keep a journal of how you're feeling. Talk to people that you can relate to, or that can relate to you and that you trust. I mean, even if you can, if it's to the point where you can confront your molester. I did do that. Of course, he didn't have a reasonable explanation as to why he did that to me. He came up with excuses of why or whatever, which really didn't make any sense to me. But I've just really had to understand that it was nothing that I did. It was nothing that I initiated. I mean, I was 12 years old, so I was still a baby myself. The way that I brought my self-esteem back up, because as I said, my self-esteem suffered from that. So what I did to bring my self-esteem back where it needed to be is I picked out everything that was good about me, and I wrote it down. And I had to write down everything that was bad and accept that those things that I could change, I did change. That's how I brought my self-esteem back up. I constantly told myself that I was worthwhile, that I was a good person. I looked at myself in the mirror and I would just you know, tell myself over and over, you are pretty, you are pretty. Because, you know, even though you may have a lot of people tell you, you know, that you're a pretty young lady or whatever like that, when something like that happens to you, you don't see it, because you're battered on the inside. So you don't see the beauty. You start to feel as though that you're just an object to people, you know. So I got over that, built my self-esteem back up. I started to shed layers of me by surrounding myself with people, you know, being more outgoing and things like that. So yeah, those are pretty much the tips that I could give you on becoming of undoing that feeling that you're a victim. At some point you have to be able to feel triumphant over this. And those are just the ways that I did. I just turned to God and let Him help me and help me to cleanse my soul and my spirit from that. So if you guys have any tips on how you can undo the damage that molestation does, put those down below. And if you know anybody that's been through this, pass those tips on to them. Pray for them, and so that they don't go into the wrong direction, because many times, you know, you end up going down the wrong path. You end up being a stripper, you end up being a prostitute, you end up being a drug addict. You know, you just end up being maybe even in the sex industry, because you feel like that's all you good for is sex, you know. And so many times that's what happens, you know, especially with males. You believe it or not, the males are the ones that turn more to prostitution than females when they're molested. You will find more male prostitutes, and I'm not saying the ones that walk the street. These are like, you'll find those, you know, like in the escorts or that sort of thing, you know. And it's hard for boys to even talk about being molested, because most of the time they molested by men, you know, or maybe they molested by a step parent or something like that, you know, a stepmom. So you just gotta make sure to pay attention to your kids and watch for those subtle signs, and just make sure that you get them all the help that you can, you know. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say on this subject. And again, just leave your tips and your comments down below. Any encouraging words that you may can pass on to somebody that may see this video, so we can help each other, you know, to get through this, because it's really a devastating experience to have to go through this. So thank you, beauties and bows, for listening. Thank you for commenting and for sharing your knowledge in advance. Okay, and I will see you all on the next video. I love you all so much, and be safe, take care, and always be aware. Alright guys, thank you. This is Gina checking out. Bye.